Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for taking time out to stop by. I do appreciate it. I didn't realize that July the 31st was the 70th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And, I found this photograph via Twitter. What an extraordinary event that was. We've uploaded the Mindspeak session with Dr. Gituyi of UNCTAD in two parts. One part is his presentation and the second part is the Q&A session that happened thereafter. Very powerful Mindspeak, I must admit, going by the number of tweets that Bob Collymore emitted during it, because we had a live feed and he told me he was watching it in his study. If you haven't seen my interview with Charles Ireland of AAPL, that link is up, gives you a good insight into the beer and particularly spirits business in this region. Joshua Oigara, the CEO of KCB, very offensive game plan he sketched out in that interview. Kenya is his Buvi Gunze after that Annus Horribilis. Have a look at what he's got to say. And Pradeep Pangrana talking around the ARM first half results and plans for a bond issue and some more. Zero Hedge quoted Trump. Trump says low interest rates created bubble that may explode. Might well be right. I like this photograph. Son of a yak herder summited Everest on the 7th try. His name, Norgay, is now rightly on Pluto. Flotus tweeted this: happy birthday to a loving husband, wonderful father, and my favorite dance partner. 54 looks good on you, POTUS. And then Yahoo News, diver practices on day 11 of FINA World Championship in Kazan, Russia. It's quite a lovely photograph, I thought. As we were coming in this morning and I was listening to BBC Newsday, and talk was of another piece of MH370 debris washing up on the island of Réunion. I said to Nishad, I think someone is dropping MH370 debris into the sea around Réunion. I wrote a piece on the August 2015 when I was talking about how it seemed we're in a new arrhythmic normal in this world of ours, and I said His Excellency Johann Borgstern told me the signal announcing this new arrhythmic normal was the disappearance of MH370. And I quoted DeLillo, we are not witnessing, and this is how it felt as I listened to these people picking up the debris on the radio, we are not witnessing the flow of information so much as pure spectacle, or information made sacred, ritually unreadable. The small monitors of the office, home and car become a kind of idolatry here, where crowds might gather in astonishment. Sudan says President Bashir plans to speak at the UN summit in New York. He's planning to travel to New York in September to speak at the United Nations. I thought to myself, that would be a stunningly bold move to break out of the box. New York Times World tweeted Emirati troops have landed in Yemen's port city of Aden. Military officials said, putting boots on the ground takes this whole thing to a completely new level. I couldn't resist this. DPRK News Service. Information Minister Tai Ryong-sak shot after trial by Revolutionary Tribunal. Tai was a degenerate ogre and despicable human scum. So that's clear. John Kerry says he's pleased to participate in the US ASEAN ministerial. Good work being done on environment, security, many other issues. And he posted this photograph. And what's interesting to me is he's published this other photograph, good discussion with GCC Council. We agreed fully implemented Iran deal contributes to region's long-term security. Is how Qatar has stepped up, seeking to be the bridge between the US and the GCC. Saudi Arabia has beheaded its 110th prisoner this year, and I observed that Saudi beheadings have gone parabolic. Currency markets, the euro is at 108.63, the dollar index is around 98.12, Japanese yen 124.36. Swissy, when I looked last, 0.9780. The Aussie, when I walked in this morning, was at 0.7361, went out 0.7371. India rupee 63.835. South Korean won 11.7171. Rial 346.92. Well, we're nearly halfway to that target of mine of 4. The Egyptian pound 782.75, and the rand at a fresh multi-year low 12.75.85. Let me put up a 1-year chart of the dollar index. My target remains 110. The latest scare over US rates came when Atlanta Federal Reserve President Dennis Lockhart told the Wall Street Journal that it would take significant deterioration in the economy for him to not support a hike in September. And the point is, I think they just want to come off that zero number. Given that Lockhart is middle of the road to slightly dovish, these comments from him really add a lot of weight to the notion that the Fed really wants to go in September. This is Citibank. Euro dollar, let me just check where we are now, 108.60. Let me put up a 6-month chart there, and my target remains 0.93. The stalwart tweeted there's Kiwi, which is the New Zealand currency, versus dairy, their prime export, heavily correlated. As you can see, Apple hit its lowest level in over 6 months. Take a look at this chart that I'm going to post. Commodity markets, gold is trading at 1086.40. My target is trading below $1,000 an ounce. Crude oil, last time I looked, was at 46.10. That's WTI. My target is sub 40. Holger tweeted Russian ruble versus Brent oil, and you can see how correlated something like the Russian ruble is to the oil price. Very interesting piece about Lucky Lobster's jam China flights sending US prices to record. Every Sunday for the past 7 months, about 60,000 live North American lobsters packed in wet newspapers and styrofoam coolers make the 18-hour flight to Asia in a Korean Airlines company cargo plane. The 7,500-mile trip from Halifax, Nova Scotia to Shanghai via South Korea has become a weekly routine this year, with a surge in demand from China, where lobsters caught in North Atlantic waters are at least 1/3 the cost of competing suppliers. As a result, exports have skyrocketed from Canada and the US, and American prices are the highest ever. No lobster industry of its own, China had relied mostly on Australian imports to satisfy growing demand as its middle class expanded. When the catch began shrinking off Western Australia in a 2012 glut in the Gulf of Maine sent prices plunging in the US that year, it became more attractive for the world's most populous nation to buy from halfway around the world. When the domestic market collapsed, we looked further and further for buyers, said Stephanie Nadeau, who shipped £2.5 million last year by air to China for the Lobster Co. in Arundel, Maine. I never sold a lobster to China until 2010. It was the really low price and the dealer's desperation here, because we had high catches and a god-awful economy. We had to move the lobster. US exports to China rose to 8,560 metric tons last year, up 22-fold from 2009. So the lobster economy is doing rather well, isn't it? The lobsters are viewed as a status symbol in China. Their red colour is considered lucky. Buyers in Asia want their lobsters live at markets and restaurants. To survive the long trip, the sea creatures should arrive within 48 hours of being removed from water tanks, exporters say. You don't get paid for dead lobsters, Nadeau said. So, wow, that's interesting. And on that note, I'll put up a photograph of a fried calamari, spider roll, lobster with shiso ponzu butter and salmon from Zuma. Holger tweeted copper versus the Shanghai Composite Index. Interesting chart. Coming to sub-Saharan Africa, Algiers, AP has an interesting big story yesterday. Algeria is in the grips of political intrigue as the president nears death and rumours of coup attempts swirl. Grips of political intrigue. Now the unprecedented firing of 3 top generals is generating fear that a power struggle within the regime will break into the open, unleashing a new cycle of the bloodshed that plagued the country in the 1990s. The stakes for the oil-rich nation, a key US ally against terrorism, are especially high because of the dramatic fall of oil prices and the rising threat from extremist groups across the border in Mali, Libya and Tunisia. These developments have put the regime on weaker footing in a country still emerging from a traumatic civil war. On July 16th, the night that the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan ended, troops flooded the area around the presidential residence of Zeralda amid talk of a possible attack. Rumours flew that it was an attempted coup or an attack by radical Islamists, while some newspapers cited anonymous officials that the whole thing was a hoax. On July 26th, the army announced a series of new appointments in key positions, showing that 3 powerful generals, the heads of counter-espionage, the Republican Guard, and presidential security, had all been replaced. The sackings have provoked a flurry of speculation that the country's elites are on the brink of an all-out war. These dismissals touch sensitive institutions that risk destabilizing the army amid a difficult regional situation. There are too many rumors and too much speculation. The president must speak. It reminds me of the situation at the end of Bourguiba's reign, when officials were appointed in the morning and fired that evening, he said, referring to former Tunisian President Habib Bourguiba, who was overthrown in 1987 after he became senile. I concluded by saying these are the most dangerous of times, when a very rigid structure, as Algeria has been under Bouteflika, gets decapitated. Reuters Africa, South African court throws out Malema fraud case. He's an interesting fellow, he really is. I follow him on Twitter. South African all shares up 5.35% this year and bounced quite sharply yesterday, 1.57%. Dollar rand, when I looked last, 12.75. We're not too far away from that target of mine of 14. Egyptian EGX30 rallied 1.17% yesterday. It's down 8.346% year to date. Nigerian all shares down 12.115% this year, and the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is down 3.53% this year. A Chinese media company is taking over East Africa's booming pay TV market. This is an article in the Quartz. MultiChoice's DSTV used to be the powerhouse of Africa's pay TV market, not anymore. The South African media company finds itself being challenged for supremacy by a new and cheaper option in the form of China's Star Times. In Africa's largest economy, Nigeria's Star Times, as measured by subscribers, has reportedly knocked MultiChoice off from its top spot as the biggest provider. With the migration to digital, which is happening across East Africa, the market is set to grow even bigger. A region with a population of almost 150 million people, TV penetration stands at a little under 34 million households in East Africa, according to Data Access, a global business intelligence firm. While the pay TV market is growing, close to 80% of people are still reliant on free-to-air channels. Overall, Tanzania leads East Africa with the highest number of subscribers, boasting 36% of the region's 1.6 million viewers. Star Times has 39% market share in East Africa, edging out the once market leader MultiChoice, controls 38%, all tapping into the growing consumer market in the region that increasingly has money to spend on such things as pay TV. Coming to Kenya, Equity Group reported first half results yesterday, profit after tax up 11.846%. Expenses went up, other operating expenses up 42.67%, total operating expenses up 22.38%, but Dr. Mwangi batted that away and said that was one-off expenses incurred in rolling out Equitel. Loans and advances were up 26.96%, total assets up 32.37%. From their Twitter handle, he spoke of the number of agents increasing to 21,108, 54% year-on-year. Interesting trend that we're observing is people requesting for easy loans via Equitel after banking hours, and somebody on Twitter made a joke and said that's because everyone gets drunk and then needs to borrow money. Equity investment banks saw 461% growth, profit before tax, we learned. So, in my opinion, they've evidently invested in this first half, and this is evidenced by that increase of 42.67% in other operating expenses and a 22.38% increase in total operating expenses. The Kenya shilling is awaiting the MPC. I hope they keep their powder dry. It's trading around 101.14. The Nairobi oil share fell another 0.54%, down 10.215% so far this year. NAC 20 is down 15.04% so far this year. Interesting photo diary of the iHub that I found on Bloomberg. In a 4-story building on the fringe of Kenya's capital, ninjas and pirates are working. And then finally, tourism. Official data indicates that 347,398 visitors arrived via Jomo Kenyatta Moi International Airports between January and June, compared to 428,223 in a similar period last year. So tourism still has not bottomed out in these statistics, and we need that, and so does Kenya Airways, in point of fact. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I am grateful.